Welcome, all you folks in TV land. This is, of course, this is Latino Talk TV, your weekly live show on Latino issues and issues facing the Latino community. It's great for y'all to tune in. We're at the HMS Studios right in the heart of Second Ward, and I tell you, we got a great show for you today. We have a leader who's been in the Hispanic community, for years, probably since the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. I tell you, that's Mr. Abel Davila. Abel's going to be our guest today. He's kind of sub co-host with me here because Ben is right now in the traffic trying to get through Minute Maid Park, so he's going to be with us just hopefully just a few minutes. But you know, folks, that's what it is. This is live TV. We're all volunteers. We all, try to get here about 30, 40 minutes before the show starts. But sometimes it doesn't happen like that. But I tell you, Abel, it's great to have Abel Davila here, candidate for District H City Council. But I tell you, Abel, let's talk some current events here.
Sounds
what
good.
the hell happened to the Astros today, man?
I think
6-2 and going into the 8th inning, and they blow it.
I mean, I think everybody expected him to win this one. Even Greg Abbott, our governor, sent a tweet before the game was over, congratulating the Astros that they had won.
See, that's what it is. That's what happened right there.
Yeah, it was just
he jinxed us.
No.
You never do that, man. You always got to honor. You got to honor the end of the game. You never do that. But my gosh, they have not lost. They have not lost over a 3-point lead all season, and today they lose by 4. They have a 4-run lead, and they blow a 4-run lead and lose.
Well, I think this will get
7 runs in the last 2 innings.
I think this will give them a good experience, though, for them to decide this is going to make them get them to the next level. If they could recover from this, then you'll probably see them in the World Series. I mean, they'll be one of the top teams that can actually recover, being young and inexperienced.
But you know what?
So.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see this. I think of all the starters, I mean, the starters, the oldest one is like 29 years old. He said you never see that.
I think that's an unexpected team, Cinderella team. And so Houston should be proud of having this young team. It reminds me of the good old days of Little League when they were playing at City Gas Park. Nobody knew how much money anybody was making. Just get a ball, get a bat, and go out there and have some fun.
Well, Altuve is 25. Carlos Correa just turned 21. Oh man, I feel bad for him. 'Cause I know he putting a lot of that of the blame on his shoulders because he had that one error in the 8th inning when the bases were loaded, and he went 4 for 4. Yeah, he had a home run, 4 hits, 4 RBIs, and my goodness, I mean that was a heck of a game. But I really feel bad for the guys. But hopefully they got one more shot.
And they're going to win
this. It's going to be in Kansas City, but they got one more shot.
They should win it. It's Clutch City.
Yeah, I hope so. It's not Choke City.
No, we're not Choke City. The Astros will recover and come through.
Yeah, hopefully, because I tell you, because that leads us to our second curse is the Texans. Boy, are they stinking it up right now. They are just a bad team right now.
The Texans have a lot to reevaluate their whole system and reevaluate maybe even the coach and some of the.
That's what it's looking like.
Yeah, I mean you see
this awesome defense. Of course, in J.J. Watt, you have Clowney, you have Cush is back in Cushing is back in the.
You have a good defense and a good offensive line. We're missing a quarterback and the leaders, the coach and the quarterback. You send the coach that we used to have to Denver and look at Manning. Manning can perform anywhere. When you have a true quarterback that can perform, that can play, it doesn't matter who the coach was. He's going to make it happen.
Well, I tell you, Abel, it just confounds me. There was so much hope for these guys coming in, and they are just stinking it up right now. But you're right, it's a lack of leadership.
Yeah, and I think they got to get it together because what ends up happening all the time with Houston teams, just like any time they get they're young, and then once they get a certain age, they all leave to better teams and end up winning the Super Bowls or championships somewhere else instead of winning them here in Houston. And so the owner has to regroup their teams and try to get some good leadership under there.
I hope so, man. They really need to right this ship, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any playoffs. Everybody will be home for the holidays. Here don't be no Texans in the playoffs anyway.
We at least need some character like Bum Phillips. They kick the door down. Love you blue kind of. That's my team. Love you blue. Kick the door down.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And well, let's move on to politics now. So we have the Democratic debate coming up on Wednesday night. Is that correct?
Tuesday, I think it's tonight, isn't it?
Is it tonight? I think it's either tomorrow night or Wednesday. I don't think it's tonight.
Tomorrow night, Tuesday.
Now, what's his name? Joe Biden said he won't announce until after if he's going to run or not. What do you think that'll do to the race if Biden gets in?
It's going to be an interesting race. I mean, this Hillary's second run for office as president. She ended up losing to someone that waited till the last minute, which is now our President Obama.
Yeah.
And so Joe Biden has some good momentum. The problems he's had in the past with, what happened with his family passing away.
Yeah.
And then now his son just passed away. So there's some sentiment there.
Tragedy in that family,
and tragedy. And he's actually done some good, and he's there, the right-hand man of Obama, and makes some good decisions. And so it's going to be a run for her money.
I tell you.
It's going to be something interesting to watch.
But sometime, somehow I expect that Clinton machine just start cranking up and really start setting her numbers in the positive direction anyway.
She's a good candidate.
Yeah.
She's a real good candidate, and her husband's a great speaker and a great motivator and a great leader. I think the last time Bill Clinton was in office, there was a surplus.
That's
the economy was great. Everyone had jobs.
You're absolutely
and so
right.
there's kind of that relationship built into Hillary Clinton that she would have the same type of mentality of bringing the economy back. But Joe Biden also has a lot of good characteristics that people are looking at.
You know what? You're absolutely right there, boy. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in the debate, and then what Joe Biden's going to decide to do.
I mean, that's when it'll get interesting. Right now, I don't think anybody will watch it. It's gonna be one of those things. Just wait. It's not like a Pacquiao and somebody else fighting that's real interesting. When you have one of those those fights where you don't have a good matchup, people tend not to want to watch it.
But I tell you what,
but Sanders is doing real well. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna see him as a minor contender because he's actually doing real well. His numbers are moving up. He's doing grassroots. He's raised the most money than any other candidate in that grassroots level where people are actually donating to him. He's not getting high-end dollars, so he's actually doing a good job of raising money. Now, will his message carry over to the general public? I'm not sure.
I tell you, and Abel, I mean, you are running for District H, but it's only, 3 weeks till election?
3 weeks, yeah, it's 3 weeks and moving fast. And then my wife's running for the school board of HISD.
That's right.
And so we're both running for office, and so...
And your brother-in-law.
Yeah, my brother-in-law's running for Houston Community College Board of Trustees, Arturo Aguilar, and Avila's running for Houston Independent School District. Yeah, just in this area, she's done a lot of good. I mean, just I'm going to plug her in, even though she's my wife, she's a bright lady, smart, intelligent. Just in this area in the East End, she was able to repair Eastwood Academy, get them a new wing. Rusk Elementary got a new wing. She was able to repair Austin High School, McGregor, in the areas there in Denver Harbor. Hey, Ben.
for folks who just saw that flash through the screen, that's Ben Mendez just showed up here. Like I said, it's live, right, Ben? We got to deal with that traffic every Monday.
You know what? The traffic was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I think there was a game going on or something.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I tell you, the Astros had a blow. We already talked about it, man. I told you we thought you were out there drowning your sorrows somewhere.
Actually, I was crying on the way over when I heard the score.
But Ben, it's always good to see you, Ben. Always good to see you.
Every Monday night.
Are we going to switch chairs?
No, you're good.
Man, I'm the man. Well, put that. Make sure. I'm ready for my close-up. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Put that on your resume.
But I tell you, Ben. So we've gone through some current events. We talked about politics. We talked about the presidential race. Right now, we're just getting into the city elections. We already talked about the Texans and the Astros, man.
Well, I can tell you right now that the city mayor's race is getting pretty interesting.
Yeah.
As you know, there was a new poll, and unfortunately, everybody believes polls.
Yeah.
Okay. But Bob Stein has a record of being fair. Yeah. I mean, he's well known. And for him to come out with this poll really put Adrian back behind Sylvester Turner, to almost 2-1. If I'm not mistaken, Adrian's numbers went down like from 18% to 9%, which is unheard of in a span of about 30 days. That's unheard of. Now, the other thing that I found very, very interesting was that there was 42% undecided.
Wow.
42%. So Sylvester was at 18%, I believe.
Yeah, and then Bill King.
Bill King was at 9%. So you're going to have, and Chris Bell was at 8%. So you're going to have a three-way race for second place. Okay, and I will tell you that the runoff election is a totally different race. Whatever happened the first go around doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of getting into that runoff election.
It's just getting in,
Getting in the door.
getting in that,
Getting in the
putting your
door.
foot
That's
in the
correct.
door there.
Now,
Yeah.
there's a couple factors that play. In Bob Stein's poll, and he said it himself, his poll is based on voters that have a history of voting in city elections. Okay, keep that in mind, because when we're talking about hero ordinance and we're talking about the mayor's race, we're talking new voters are going to come to the plate. That includes the Hispanic community.
Yeah,
Many folks are fired up in the Hispanic community. They're going to come out and vote because of the races and H&I. And not to mention these HISD races and the HCC races. So there's interest in the Hispanic community for new voters. The other thing is that we're going to have a lot of Republicans that don't normally vote in city elections. And the reason why they don't vote, because Democrats pretty much always win city elections. Okay, and no matter who's running for mayor, it's usually a Democrat. It's very seldom that you have a Republican win the mayor's race. As a result of the hero ordinance and this mayor's race, you're going to have new Republicans voting in this election. So those two factors alone, and not to mention the 42% undecided, you just never know what's going to happen on election day. It can go either way.
You know, Ben, and did Stein give any preliminary numbers on the how the hero ordinance would do?
I don't know his poll, but I've heard other polls on the hero ordinance. It's going to fail according to the poll numbers.
And from what I've heard, it's going to fail badly.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
But just the mere fact that it's on the ballot has created an interest in this city election.
And I think you're right on target. I think just that issue in itself is going to get a lot of people to come out and vote. Not only having a Hispanic first time running for mayor who actually has good money, good funds, good campaign strategy that's moving forward is going to attract a lot of Hispanics to come out and vote, but you also have the Christians that probably never tend to vote that are going to come out to vote more often this time around than ever before, because while I've been block walking and walking on doors and knocking on doors, that's a big issue. People are not too happy of allowing men to go into the girls' restrooms. That's an issue that's not carrying well. And we talked a while back the governor's race with Wendy Davis, the two issues that she carried. And I told you back then, Hispanics are not going to vote for her in the Valley. And sure enough, she didn't even come close. She didn't end up winning the Democratic. She didn't become our governor, and I predicted even 6 months before that Greg Abbott was going to win it. And so, it was one of those things. And I think the same issue is going to happen here.
You know what? Abel, and really what really gets me is that that part of the ordinance could have been taken out. And the mayor insisted that it be left in. Allowing men into the opposite sex into the same bathroom. And if probably just leaving that out would have gave this a lot better chance. What do you think?
I believe so. I don't believe anybody believes in any type of discrimination or so forth. But when it comes to putting your kids first and putting your children first, whether it's your daughters, your sons, it becomes an issue. It's second guessing yourself. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to protect my kids. It's bad enough the world is not a good place to live in. You can't distinguish between somebody that's transgender or somebody that's not transgender and what can happen to our children. My focus as a father would always be my children first.
Yeah. The other thing that was kind of interesting is you have a lot of Hispanic priests, or not priests,
Ministers.
Ministers that were endorsing Ben Hall. And the reason why they were endorsing him was because of his stance on the hero ordinance. He was against it. I believe he's the only mayoral candidate that is strongly against hero. Am I correct?
No, you're correct.
Okay. So you have 13 candidates running for mayor. Okay. 2 of them are Latino, believe it or not. Okay. And then you have, I believe, 4 African Americans. Yeah. And then the rest are Anglo. And I take that back. One is Asian. So you have a wide spread of candidates, and to be the only one up front saying that you are against the hero ordinance, that puts the light on you, okay? And the fact that the Hispanic ministers got together and actually endorsed Mr. Hall, wow.
That's a big
hit.
And in a way, it's a good thing because finally we have some churches that are getting together and getting involved, which is going to give us to that next level where Hispanics need to be more involved in voting. You got about 200 pastors that are actually getting their churches involved, getting their churches to block walk, getting the churches to come out and vote and get people to come out and vote. There's a Hispanic movement happening, and people may not be seeing it, but I've always said, there's this disconnect. We're a stepchild in the Democratic Party and also in the Republican Party. No one has embraced the Hispanic community, and so we're still up for grabs, I think.
You know what, Abel, and where, where, since a lot of people are just going to be voting solely on that issue, and really, since if it is defeated, where does it fall to the next mayor? Can that and you've come from City Hall.
Mm-hmm.
You were in City Hall. You were chief of staff for
Councilmember Fraga.
for Felix Fraga for many years during his terms in office.
For 6 years.
So where does that fall? If it's defeated, what happens then? Can the new mayor bring it up, or can he make changes to it and repropose
There's always ways to repropose the bill and bring it back up, depending on who gets elected and how it's kind of transformed and reevaluated. And it may still be brought up again. I mean, just the way the group fought and went to get signatures so that it can be put back on the ballot, and the courts decided to let the voters decide because they were trying to get it passed without letting the voters decide. And I think now it becomes a big issue. It'll probably happen again. The other side will probably do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Ben?
The mayor did some things behind the scenes that she shouldn't have. The mere fact that she was trying to shove it down the throats of the city council members, and also for that lawsuit that was against the HERO ordinance, she tried to shun those folks as well. I mean, she should have dealt with it head on versus trying to do it behind the scenes, behind closed doors, and make it happen.
Trying to do the end around run.
Exactly. It's important to get the input from the citizens, right? And when you try to circumvent that process, it just sheds a bad light on the mayor.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ben.
And it's a hot topic. I mean, you have Lance Bergman is getting attacked for being against it. I mean, you have the opposite sides. You have people being for it, and so they're being attacked. And so you have people on both sides that used to work together that are kind of fighting each other and all name calling. And the Chronicle, Manny, a good friend, Manny Rodriguez, running for HISD, got attacked, the Houston Press, being homophobic because of some of the things he did the last campaign, but it's more to do with the HERO ordinance. The Chronicle tends to support all the candidates that are HERO candidates, and so it's an agenda-driven papers, and so I think we have to be real careful as Hispanics to not let people dictate to us who should we elect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, a lot of people believe what they hear, whether it be in print media or on TV or radio. And the more people say a lie, the more people believe the lie. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's no way to combat that if you don't have any money.
Yep. If you're not like Donald Trump. Donald Trump can come back anything. He has all the billions of dollars and a million followers.
Yeah. So that leads to our next discussion, which is the finances. Okay. When you talk about how much money is going into the mayor's race, incredible.
Yep.
Incredible numbers. If I'm not mistaken, Adrian has raised $2.2 million, at least. Back in the day, I remember that it used to cost $1 million to run a campaign for mayor. Mm-hmm. That's not the case anymore. You have multiple candidates in this race that are going to be at least close to $2 million by the end of the election. So you're going to have some serious dough, at least $10 million in this campaign for mayor. Being spent. Mm-hmm. That is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And so people are able to put their name in front of people, like the Costellos of the world, Who had heard of Costello besides the people that were really involved in city government? The average citizen didn't know who Stephen Costello was, right? Well, Chris Bell he's run a couple times. They know who he is. Ben Hall, this is the second go around. They know who he is. Sylvester, they know who he is. Adrian Garcia, they know who he is. But all the rest of the candidates, the 7 remaining candidates, they don't know who they are. And for them to have any impact whatsoever, they got to have money behind them. And I don't see it happening anymore.
Well, that's certainly a big concern with all these candidates. Yeah. Absolutely, because that's the lifeblood is the money that you get in.
Yeah. So. And just this morning, I saw an email from Chris Bell. He's, again, attacking Adrian. Even though Adrian was behind in the polls, they're still attacking Adrian. Mm-hmm. And his email said specifically how Adrian's numbers have spiraled down. And let's continue this by donating to the Chris Bell campaign. I thought it was a low blow, if you ask me.
Yeah. And I think they're going to continue to attack him because it's working. I mean, they're able to control the media. The Chronicle did a good job on him, and they'll continue to do a good job. And he needs to almost raise triple the amount that he has in order to combat that. He would have to almost raise $6 million just to create a positive spin on everything, because it all depends how the media spins it. If you look at the way they write reports, you could always see when they attack a Hispanic it's kind of one of those things, accused of or allegedly violated. If it's somebody that's not Hispanic or African American, he was investigated or he was under certain type of investigation. It depends how they spin the story. They don't make it seem so critical and so like he did something wrong. Right away, there's a spin when it comes to minorities that he did it. There's not you're not proving innocent. It's just you did it. They don't care if you went through the process. Nothing was found. They're gonna make sure they spin it to get people to think that he did something bad. And so I think that's hurt Adrian big time. I mean, several articles have come out on him, and they continue to publish them. They continue to put them out there, and so that's really brought his numbers down. Yeah. Because he had a good, diverse group of people supporting him, and his numbers are going down. And they're probably not going down in the minority communities because minorities tend to understand that that's going to happen to us.
Yeah, but I think Adrian's going to pull it off. I really believe in my heart that he will be in second place in this runoff election. It will be between Sylvester and Adrian. Now, if that's the case, new ball game, doesn't matter what happened in the past. You're going to see a lot of folks taking sides, whether it be with Adrian or Sylvester. Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be new coalitions built. Mm-hmm. And elections are won with money and coalitions and name ID. Those are the three components.
Yeah. But I tell you, since we're so talking about politics, Abel, what's I know you're a candidate for District H. What do you want to do if you're elected District H? What's your platform?
I mean, the first thing I would love to do was try to go out throughout the whole neighborhood, evaluate the neighborhood, look at the needs. I mean, there's a need, of course, to fix the basic potholes, the basic streets, the basic sidewalks, the basic parks. They should all have a standards. To parks, standards of neighborhoods, they should look the same whether they're here in Second Ward, Denver Harbor, or the Heights, or even River Oaks. It shouldn't matter where you live. Houstonians should have the same basic needs. A second would be for a person that's seen not only to represent people in the city of Houston, but in state government, speak up on issues that need to be spoken up about. For instance, we have many things that are happening in education where we're lacking in our educational workforce. We're not creating workforce training programs, whether it's Houston Community College or HISD. I believe we need to work with those representatives and encourage people to work together and collaborate, work with the county and making sure we combine our resources and decreasing the amount of money that we're spending. I don't believe we should spend more money. I don't believe we should tax people more. I believe that there's plenty of money out there. We just need to figure out how to, bring down waste and make sure we increase our value and focus more on people. People, I think the city of Houston, our people are our biggest asset. And we forget that we need to be more creative. We need to get back to the city of Houston. And so there's a lot to do.
That goes right in with the pension. As you know, we have some serious issues with fire, police, and the municipal pension. Now, what is your plan of attack there?
First of all, I would love to sunset a lot of the turfs. The turfs are tax increment and redevelopment zones, which need to be sunset. The Galleria has a turf, the West Side has a turf, downtown stadiums have a turf, and that's how they build those stadiums, how they remodel Galleria. That tax basis stays there at that area, and it's not put into the general fund. So we can bring that money back, then I would love for it to be brought back and maybe pay down some of the pensions. Now, is it going to create probably cover the whole pension cost? No. Now, for new employees, maybe we should reevaluate the pension and have it controlled locally. But for current employees, I believe the pension should stay the same. If we made a promise to these firefighters 10 years ago, then we should keep the promise. Our word should be our word, and we shouldn't go back on that. It's like me saying I'm going to hire you for $25 an hour. Then I say, well, Ben, now that you're here, I only could give you $10 an hour. No employee is going to love that, or it's going to stay on the job. And so I believe that if you make a commitment to an employee, you figure it out, because there's still going to be waste, and you create a zero budget program where you evaluate all departments. For instance, we're spending more on police officers on the budget, but yet we have less police officers now than we did 10 years ago. So why is that? Has anybody evaluated that? Has the mayor even tried to evaluate that? I don't know. And that's something that we should look at.
I tell you, Ben, why don't we take a break right now, sir, and we could get continue this discussion.
Let's do it. And we have another councilman, actually a candidate for council coming our way. So we'll get them both in here.
Okay.
Let's talk politics.
Sounds good. Just give us a couple of minutes, folks. We'll be back in 2, and stay right there. Welcome back to Latino Talk TV. And yes, the Astros still lost a little 4-run lead. Hasn't changed. But we're back. We have a new guest with us, candidate for City Council Large Position 2, Mr. Mo Rivera. Mr. Rivera, thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for inviting me. Yes, thank you, Ben.
And Mr. Rivera, a retired lieutenant colonel.
From the United States Army, yes, sir.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you.
I tell you, you guys that give your life, give your career to serve our country. I mean, you have all my respect and the respect of probably 99% of the people in this country.
I think I respect more my dad. He did 20 years in 2 wars. I just had a conflict and was in the Middle East, but nothing bad happened to me.
How many years?
26 years I did. My dad did 20.
Wow.
Impressive.
Thank you very much for serving for us.
Yes, sir.
Wow. And what capacity did your dad serve?
He served as a staff sergeant and as an infantry. He went to Vietnam. He went to Korea. Served proudly. I'm very proud of him. He's still alive. He's in that picture with me. He's 88 years old. He survived those 2 wars. He got wounded in Korea and wounded in Vietnam.
Wow.
And still kicking.
And still kicking. Remarried and young with a young lady, so he must be doing something better than his son.
I tell you.
Does it run in the family?
My wife kind of worries.
So Mo, why don't you tell us a little bit about why I can't even speak. This Houston Astros loss.
Yeah, it's affecting.
It's affecting all of us.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit of why you're running. Okay, I know you ran previously.
I ran 2 years ago. Yes, I
Why
did.
you would do it again?
I'm doing it again because my candidate, that's the incumbent, lied in front of people, and I just really don't go around with go well with people that lie in front of other people. I remember one time going to the Pachyderm Club downtown in 2013. They asked the incumbent, would you support a hero ordinance that allows men to go to the women's bathroom and all that? And he said, no, I wouldn't support that. But he did. I'm not sure if he was tricked, he was deceived, but he did vote for the hero ordinance. And I'm going, hey, I need to run against this guy. He said he wouldn't do this. And then again, he did so. That's one of the reasons.
Who's that? Who's the incumbent?
That's David
Robinson.
Robinson, not the basketball player, just the council member at large number 2.
And the other reason?
The other reason is we have problems with our pensions. Our pensions need to be addressed and fixed. Specifically, we have $2.5 billion shortfall of unfunded pensions. That means the city has promised to pay X amount of money to match what the employees or some employees are giving in, and they haven't been able to do that. So we need to fix that. We need to fix that pronto.
And how do we address that?
Well, number one, I believe there's certain employees that aren't contributing. In the municipal pension, you got people that are in Plan B and Plan D, they're not contributing. Only Plan A are contributing. Why don't we allow those people to contribute to save their own plans?
Yeah.
Contribute 5%, 6%, 7%. And then the new employees that are coming in, why don't we turn them in like a 401 plan where they fully contribute, they have control of their destiny, the city puts a certain portion and they get something out of it. Because right now, Plan D only gets 1.75% of the monies to the city coming in. In order for them to get anything, they would have to wait 40 years. They have to work 40 years in the city to get a decent pension. Now, there's other pensions like the fire department is completely different because the fire department pension, they don't have Social Security. Firefighters don't have Social Security. So to me, you have to honor those people that have earned it. But at the same time, we can't go down this road with that. We have to do a 401 type of pension, a new pension where they contribute, where the city contributes, and we honor the people that have worked in the past, they've earned it, but we go into a new era of pensions.
I'm hearing the same thing between the 2 candidates.
You know what? And I'd like to ask. I know it's been said out there, or they're asking the candidates to to sign on to a plan that would bring control of the pensions back to the city. One candidate in particular in your race has said he helped write that law, and he doesn't want the people in the city messing with the firefighters' pension. What do you guys think about that?
You want to answer? You want to answer? I don't have a problem.
We can have both of you guys. Okay.
I believe we should meet and confer on an honest base to base. We sit down with the pension boards and we put out the cards and we say, look, we don't want to mess with your pension. We don't want to really be able to, we want to negotiate. Now, here's what's in the table. I'd like to change the law from the law of 75 to the law 80. Right currently now, if you have 75 points, which is, let's say, for example, I'm 50 years old and I've worked 25 years, I've earned a pension because I go into the law of 75. Why don't we change it to the law of 80? That means the pension would at least last another 5 years. We get time for the city to contribute what they need to contribute because the city's failed us in not contributing. And you allow them to contribute money, and that puts more money in the pot. That's one option. Another option is doing away with what they call the
drop program.
The drop program. What's a drop program? Abel, you know what drop is. You keep on working, and you're retired, and you earn interest, and you earn like you're paying like if you were retired. That puts a lot of strain to the city also. We could do that. Take away. Another thing we could take away is like the COLA, the cost of living allowance. We could remove the COLA. There's a lot of things in the board where you could just sit and confer and say, something has to happen. And if nothing happens, then guess what? We have to go to Austin, Abel. We have to go to Austin and do legislation because we just can't go up down this road. I've worked at the Chronicle, 801 Texas, and we have what they call a contributory plan, but I'm seeing that I'm going to outlive that plan. It's a plan that they call an annuity, but I'm looking at the last 5 years and there's more money coming out than coming in. And sooner or later, I may be 75 or 80 years old, there's not going to be any money left. And I see the same thing happening with the city. So far, so good. There's $1.5 billion there. But one day, that money's going to run out. If you don't have people contributing, and if you just putting money out of there, it's going to run out of money. And you're going to have firefighters that are 80, 90 years old without a penny. We don't want that. And that's how I'll sell it. I'll sell it. You don't want to lose this, don't you? So we have to fix this. And I'll explain the numbers. $2.5 billion is a lot of money. And also the city has to contribute back. If there's any surplus money that's left over from whatever general fund, let's take some of that money and put it in the streets and put the other money into the pension. We owe it to the firefighter. We owe it to the policemen. We owe it to the public works personnel in the city.
That we honor our obligations, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Abel?
Yeah, I agree, and I think we need to honor our obligations. Moving forward with the new employees, I believe we need to create a new system where it's more for the employee to contribute more, and we match maybe 6% the way the county does it, the way other institutions do it. I don't believe we should continue the drop program. We can't afford to continue doing the drop program. Local control of current money, I'm not sure. Can you trust this current mayor with another $1 billion? Is she going to put us in a worse situation than we are now? Can you trust the next mayor with $1 billion? What are they going to do with that money? And are we going to be in debt again? Every time you give public officials more money, it seems like they spend more, and we'll spend $2 billion. And instead of being in debt $3 or $4 billion, we're going to be in debt $20 billion. And then we're going to be going back and forth, and our kids are going to have to pay for it. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that we're going to leave a legacy that's not too good for our children. If we're going to have local control, then we need to have regulations in there and stipulations that it's not going to be used for anything else but paying debt and making sure we reinvest that money back into pensions. Now, you see what they're doing with the municipal pensions. They're not working and they have local control. The police pensions, they complain that it's not working and it's local control. So the fire department is the only thing working. It's a state program, just like the school teachers program is a state program. And those are working. Now, it's not that we shouldn't borrow for those funds, but we should be able to have a revenue of how we're going to pay them back. That's my biggest concern. The people that you're going to elect, can you trust them to do what's right and not overspend?
And that reminds me of the capital improvement plans. As you know, back in the day, we used to have some big capital improvement plans to fix roads, the city facilities. et cetera, et cetera. And as funds started going lower and lower, the people decided, you know what, we're not going to fund the city capital improvement budget anymore because we don't have any confidence in them, because confidence is what makes elections possible, right? So if the confidence is not there for how city council is managing their funds, I don't see any construction down the road with capital improvement dollars because they will not vote for a bond program. Now, in the last couple of years, we've had HISD, HEC, City of Houston, Harris County, Lone Star College, and many other entities have bond programs. And what it is you borrow money and then you pay it off as you go. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the near future when you don't have any monies at the city, first of all, and then the city's asking for bond money so that they can build more parks, more libraries, more police stations, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on the capital improvement plan as it exists?
If you ask the common voter based on our capital improvement plan, is there one? It probably doesn't exist in many of our neighborhoods in District H. There's potholes in every street. The sidewalks are not being fixed. The parks are not being fixed and repaired. The water parks aren't even in existence anymore. I remember when Bob Lanier was there and I was there with Councilmember Felix Fraga, we had neighborhood 2 standards. And those were funded through Metro money. And they decided to use the Metro money for rails, which in some areas it created flooding, like here in 2nd Ward, all the way from Harrisburg, all the way to Navigation, due to the fact that the infrastructure wasn't built properly. And so we need to be forward-thinking and think for 10 years, 20 years, 40 years down the road, and we're thinking just for now. And so if we're going to build any type of capital improvements project, first of all, we need to revamp that drainage fee, which I believe is a tax, and reverse that drainage fee. If not, use that drainage fee properly and making sure our infrastructure is repaired. If you're asking me about a capital improvement plan, I don't think there's one. We have rebuilt Houston, was supposed to be used for worse first. If you look at all our neighborhoods, they're still worse. And so I'm not sure what's happening there.
So are you saying you're not for?
Oh, I'm in favor of a capital improvement plan that works and that's implemented, like Bob Lanier, where he had neighborhood to standards, parks to standards, sidewalk to standards, where they actually have a plan that's actually funded, that's actually feasible, and it's going to work.
Boy, I tell you, that's certainly a great point. Need to get back to those days, Abel.
The basics.
Yeah,
Back to the basics.
yeah.
Not that we're endorsing a gentleman that's this model, back to the basics. But basically, Abel is correct. If we're going to do a CIP program, one that works, not that promises and fails to promise. Rebuild Houston is beautiful on paper, but in practicality is not, because many neighborhoods are having to wait and nothing's really happening the way. Ben Hall came up with a concept stating that districts should be allocated funds and let them accumulate the funds and then fix worse first. Redoing a rebuild first. But what happens is, Rebuild Houston, I believe, if you've promised a next neighborhood that you're going to fix their streets and they're next online, and all of a sudden you got a new mayor coming in, and he resets it and you got to start all over again, you're going to have some angry people in those neighborhoods. So I think we need to closely, as council member, look, okay, on the Rebuild Houston, what neighborhoods are next? What districts? What streets? What sidewalk? What bridges? And can we continue this? Who's next after this? Or do we just go back, reset, and allocate funds to the different districts? So it's something that you have to look, have to work out with the council members and see what's best for the city.
Ben, what do you got?
Well, I used to manage the CIP for building services. So we manage, in case the viewers don't know, there's 3 entities that really manage the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan. Airports, Public Works, and Building Services, which is now called General Services. Mm-hmm. General Services was in charge of all the construction for all the facilities except for airports and Public Works. So Building Services was in charge of fire stations, libraries, police stations, solid waste facilities, et cetera, libraries. And so when I was managing the monies for Building Services, what I saw was the mayor was able to maneuver some of those monies to wherever he wanted, okay? And that's what happened with Denise Parker's administration. They were able to maneuver those monies wherever they wanted. Whoever was on the bad side of the mayor, whoever was against the mayor, guess what? Their monies were taken away from their district, okay? And there's no coincidence. That's what happens in politics, right? because if you're in a strong mayor form of government, which we are here in Houston, then you have the power to do so. Okay, and unfortunately, whoever's on the raw end of the stick, their constituents are the ones that suffer, not the council member. The constituents don't get the needed parks or the needed libraries or the needed police stations. So it's unfortunate that we have the system, but because we are living in the system, we have to work with that system. So getting back to the CIP, if I was a voter, I would have a little hesitancy about voting for a new bond program, considering who the next mayor will be. Because again, the mayor is the stronghold. Depending on who's running that ship will be dependent on the voters, how they vote for the bond election. Okay. Now, I will also tell you that Public Works has an advantage, and so does airports, because they get a lot of federal funds. Okay. Unfortunately, General Services gets very little funds. They have the TERS, which you mentioned earlier, and of course they have these miscellaneous grants that they get. But the reality is most of that money is coming from the voters' capital improvement plan that was voted by them. Now, if you go back to Public Works, and if you look at the CIP, how it's written, you'll see you have money from Metro, you'll have monies from the feds to fix some of those streets, you'll have all kinds of programs that the government has that feed into that CIP. If you look at the airports, FAA, there's a lot of grants that come out there, because FAA, they look at the big picture. Where's the most need for our monies? Where do we put our money? Where's the growth? Where's the chances of more flights? Because as you know, we have limited airport space. Okay, so their FAA is going to put money wherever they see it feasible. So fortunately, Houston, because of all the stuff that we got going on here at the Houston Hobby, Houston Intercontinental, we're getting a lot of funds from FAA. Okay, so they're not hurting. We're hurting at the General Services side.
Yep.
Boy, I tell you, man, that it amazes me how they're able to shift these monies around, Ben, and also there seems to be no accountability when they do that. I mean, what's the answer for that? How do we stop stuff like that?
Are we talking about the mayor shifting money?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to the mayor form of government. Who runs the ship?
Strong
Mayor does. Okay. It doesn't matter what one council member says. There's 17, if you include the mayor, 17 council members. That one council member has zero, and I do mean zero say-so on how those monies are. You can have all the people you want come to city council and protest whatever it is that the mayor did. If the mayor's not on board, it's not going to happen.
But one thing you can do, and being there with Councilmember Fraga, is you have to have a council member that's going to be strong and speak out. And what you tend to do is you have to be able to make things happen. And what you do is you try to piggyback on things that they may want, and you got to count the votes. And what I mean by that, you got to make sure if you need 9 to pass an agenda, then you make sure you have 9 to build relationships so that you can stop the stuff on the agenda that she or he may want that's mayor. To let them know that you're actually going out there and building relationships to protect your district and your voters. And you do some of those things to maneuvering, and you pick on some of these departments that are not doing their jobs publicly. You have people come out publicly and speak, come out in the newspaper and actually monitor what they're doing and how they're spending their money, and making sure you create a momentum from the citizens, because if you can get the citizens to react, I'm more than sure that mayor is not only going to want to be a two-year mayor or one-term mayor. He or she's going to want to serve, or it's only he nowadays. There's only males running except for one woman, right?
There's two.
2 women? Okay. I only saw one of the last debates.
Demetria Bruce, Demetria and Victoria Lane.
And so my thing is you also have to have strong council members. While it may be a mayoral stronghold of government, the council members can actually outmaneuver the mayor if they work together. Now that's the bigger issue. How do you get
if
9
you
people
have the support? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, most people will not go against the mayor publicly at city council. Okay, that's kind of like a death trap there.
You don't want to do
you don't want to do that in front of the public or in front of the media. Okay, so you do it behind closed doors, and there's a lot of give and take. So if you're the mayor and I say, you know what, you have my votes on X, Y, and Z that you bring to the table, but I need this one little carrot. If you can vote for this one carrot, I'll give you all the rest. And that's the way the negotiations go on behind closed doors. Now, if the mayor refuses to work with you because of some animosity of something happened, then you're kind of like stuck like Chuck, because you have to work with all the council members because the mayor's not going to work for you.
I tell you. It's a whole nother ball game behind door City Hall. Isn't it?
There is.
Yeah.
And usually you have those that have been there a long time. You see that in for instance, in independent school districts. Right now, what's happening in HISD, you know, the people that have been there the longest get more on the bonds, and not so much because the administrator is going to work with that person or those trustees. Just like ours, the East End is suffering because we don't have experience on that seat. We have someone there that's new, that's more worried about doing audits rather than getting our schools fixed and getting money for our districts. You know, the audits work, but the audits are not going to fund you. What's good to do an audit to tell you don't have any money, that you lost $200 million? Who's going to stand up for the child that say we need more books, we need a better building? That's what we need. We need somebody that's going to produce.
You know, I was just thinking about the HERO ordinance. Mm-hmm. See, the mayor did not have the support of the council members on this. Okay. She strong-armed some folks, and she was able to convince some folks. And that was the little carrot. I vote for this, and you give me that.
You give me that.
Yeah, and it kind of this whole HERO ordinance kind of backfired on the mayor because of the lawsuit and all this other stuff
But
behind the scenes.
There's respect to the
pastors,
the pastors and all that. So it's kind of interesting. I kind of take a step back and I look at this election that's coming in November to see what happens with all the dynamics, not just the HERO ordinance, but the other stuff that's going on, the city council races, and of course HISD and HCC. So there's a lot of dynamics, a lot of deals being made, and you know, a lot of deals are being cut right now for if I don't make it to the runoff, I got your support. I'll support you. If I make it to the runoff, you support me.
People already cutting deals with me?
Oh yeah, they're already cutting deals. Yeah, and that's the way it is. Yeah, and it's including the mayor's race. You know, if you don't make it to the runoff, I need your back. I mean, I need you to have my back, and so forth. Am I right or am I wrong?
That's kind of what tends to happen.
Yeah. So you have all these things lined up before Election Day. And then when Election Day hits, you see the results, boom. Hopefully they keep their word. And the people that said that they were going to have your back actually do have your back.
Yeah. You know what? I'd like to bring up one other thing, gentlemen, and see what your views are on this is. What about neighborhood protection? And I'm talking about these historic neighborhoods that are just getting bought out left and right. Second Ward, you know, being, you know, right at the forefront. How do we protect these old neighborhoods from these unscrupulous speculators or land buyers that are really offering these people peanuts, and they're turning around and, you know, making millions off of them?
First of all, we have the lot size that we need to help the communities create and pass in order for them to protect that you could only have a certain amount of houses within a certain amount of lot size. That's an ordinance that's Chapter 44 that's actually works, that is working in other areas like Glendale and some other areas over here in the East End that are actually promoting that kind of stuff. But sometimes people just don't know. And so what a city council member should be doing to protect his neighborhood.
Is that something that can be done at the city council level?
At the city council,
go to Austin?
No, it could be done at city council level. And sometimes what happens is our own city council members are not representing us. They should be getting the city attorney to come out and actually work with the community folks. Lanier used to allow you to use his city attorney when there was zoning issues, and he would allow you to go create historical districts and so forth. We did one in 06 Ward when we were at Councilmember Felix Frao. That was the first one in his district, 06 Ward. And so it could happen. It's just a lack of representation. You have to have a council member that cares about the community to do that.
And I agree with Abel when designating historic sections within the city and protect them. Something came up on the newspaper a couple of months ago, and there was this African American church that was wanting to being bought out, and the church did not want to sell. The church's been there over 100 years. They said, no, but we're historical. Not sure if they really were historical in paper, but there was outside investors wanting to purchase that and convert that property into a high rise. You see a lot of that in San Francisco. In San Francisco, poor people are being run out of the city. Do we want to do the same thing here in Houston? I think you need to meet with different neighborhoods and say, okay, what is it right here that you want to keep historically? Because it's going to bound to happen, because the real estate, the closer you are to the Houston downtown, the more it costs. And the more chances are that someone will buy it and just build a high rise so people can be close to work. And now we got all the Dynamo, we have the Astros, we have the Rockets are all in downtown. So this is
they're on
prime
District
real
8,
estate.
right?
This is prime
No,
real
just-
estate
no,
around
That's
here.
District guy.
Just a guy.
Yeah.
But
Downtown's not ours.
You know, it just when you look at something like that, you know, I saw firsthand. I was born in East LA, just right in the shadows of Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine.
Chavez.
And yeah, my parents were native Houstonians, and we lived there about 13 years. I was there till I was about 6 years old. Went back just a few weeks ago with Valdemar Rodriguez because he was up for a Imagen Award from TBH. And I wanted to go back and see my old neighborhood. It was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen. A vibrant Latino neighborhood with schools, churches, parks, just completely erased off the face of the earth, like it had never been there. The churches were gone, the schools were gone. All it was those mid-rise and townhomes. And some homeless people. It just broke my heart. I said, man, I remember this neighborhood, just, you know, a vibrant Latino neighborhood with the culture and just, you know, the good feeling of neighbors in there. And then it's just like it had never been there. And it was just so heartbreaking to me. And I do not want to see that happen in Houston.
But I think there's this twofold situation. We need to protect the now, but plan for the future. What I mean by that is that now we need to look at all the permitting issues where the developers may want to get permitting and actually question these permits. The future is we need to make sure we have an educated workforce. And for now, we need to increase the homestead for seniors to make sure they're able to keep their homes.
Correct.
And their taxes won't go up. For the future, in order for their kids to afford those homes, we need to make sure they're getting educated and have good jobs. And they're business owners and able to have work at the city of Houston and be able to own the damn company. Because a lot of the times what happens is these people tend to work, but we don't own the companies. We need to allow minorities, small businesses to participate and become Houston first, whether it's HISD, whether it's ACC, or whether it's the City of Houston, Lone Star, in order for us to maintain our integrity of our neighborhoods. Because the government can't do everything for you. We're gonna have to do some stuff for ourselves, and that's making sure that our children are getting educated, making sure that they're able to own companies, making sure they have degrees. You know, every time I go speak at graduations, I would always tell them, just as hard as you work for a quinceañera, work just as hard to get them into college. You know, all the time is the same. You know, you're happy about that quinceañera that's going to last for an hour, 2 hours. Yeah. You know, work is just as hard to put in a diploma on top of that wall for your mom and dad, because that's what we need. We need more educated people in our neighborhoods in order for them to maintain the integrity of our neighborhoods.
That's absolutely right. Ben?
Man, I can go on for an hour
on
talking
that.
about small business participation.
Yeah.
I'm a small business myself. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got about a minute left, and let me give you gentlemen the last word. Mo?
Well, I'd like for the people to vote for a Hispanic that's been here since 1983, that loves this city, that has daughters born here, that has a grandson born here, that's a transplanted Puerto Rican here in this city, that loves this city and wants the very best. I don't want this city to be in debt. I want this city to strive, and that's one of the reasons I'm running for office. So on November 3rd, if you could please remember Mo Rivera at large position number 2, Hispanic representation in the 4th largest city in America.
Abel?
My wife, Diana Davila, and I lived here in 2nd Ward. And this city has done a lot of great things for us. I asked you to vote for my wife, Diana Davila, for HISD, and myself, Abel Davila, for District H. I was born and raised here. This city is a great city. It's a great country. It's given me a great opportunity. I grew up in a family of 10, was poor. They make excuses when I was poor. And now that I'm a little bit successful, I'm not going to apologize for being successful.
Absolutely.
Because I believe all of us should be successful. And it's not about just Abel Davila. It's about you and your children and the children that come before after them. We need to all work together to make the city great, and together we can make it happen. So vote. Make sure you go out and vote. Get your friends to vote. There's a lot of issues out there, and we have an opportunity to make history this coming election. So go out there and vote for Abel Davila, Diana Davila. Thank you.
Folks, we've run out of time. We're afraid we have to sign off now. Early voting starts the 19th.
19th.
Next
October
Friday. This coming Friday.
19th. It's a
That's
Monday.
coming Friday. And
It's a Monday.
folks,
It's a
a Monday. I'm sorry. That's it for today. We'll see you next week on Latino Talk. And every Monday, 6 o'clock live.
Congratulations, you guys are going.
We're going to
watch us
DC.
DC.
We'll let you know next week.
Thanks for the invitation also.
Thank you.